All right, guys.
It's like the test question.
Are you ready? No, I promise. It's going to be nice and fun. It's great to see you all here. Thank you very much for joining us. Please, everybody, dear speakers, get yourself comfortable and give a brief introduction of yourself and your protocols. Let's start with Matt.
Hey everyone, I'm Matt. I'm a DevRel engineer at EigenCloud. EigenCloud is a developer platform to build full-stack verifiable services. If you're interested, let's chat.
Hi, I'm Amrit. We are building AllClear. We are a RAS service. We help people deploy rollups. We work with the likes of OPStack, Arbitrum Orbit, and DA layers like EigenDA.
Hey everyone, I'm Nathan, Chief Revenue Officer at iExec, which is a T infrastructure privacy preserving project.
Hey. I feel like more people should be here because this is the biggest problem for our industry, which is where are the users, where's the product market fit, right? So I lead global strategy at Mantle. My name is Tim. Our vision is to bring crypto to your everyday life. The two numbers that keep me up at night are how do we onboard the next billion users into crypto, and how do we onboard the next $1 trillion of capital into crypto. More recently, we launched an index fund, which is the largest on-chain tokenized fund at 200 mil, as well as we launched a crypto neo-banking product called UR.
You want me to? Yeah. Hi guys. I'm sorry about the delay. I'm Ram. I'm one of the core contributors at OpenLedger. We are a blockchain that enables people to contribute datasets and build AI models, and we use attribution to reward them. We focus on enabling better AI for use cases that are much more real life than just asking about, what's the weather in ChatGPT. Yeah, so that's what we do.
Awesome. It's great to have you here, guys. We actually did the first run of the very similar panel back in Hong Kong. And in the past 6 months, actually, a lot has changed. Specifically from the user-based perspective, we have way more diversity in terms of who the users are. We have more tooling, especially with the AI support rising. Some claim that we even solved interoperability. Some still disagree. But however, still scaling is a big issue. So maybe let's start with looking back into what misconceptions we had about scaling in the past 2 years to see how things have changed. Maybe why wouldn't we start with you, Amrit?
I don't think scaling has ended. I don't think we have solved it quite yet. And you could see that even in the last couple of months, there have been at least 2 or 3 L1s that have been funded. And again, the approach is different. For example, they're trying to minimize consensus entirely. And so I don't think this, you could see that some of the angle from VCs as well, that they're still funding some of the newer scaling technologies in the form of L1s. And so I don't think that we are there yet. There'll be new things coming up. The reason is simple, right? Technology it's not something like there's an end game to technology, right? And often people say that ZK is the end game. I don't believe that. I think there's always something else that will come up that would change the way we think about these systems currently. So for example, quantum, right? There are a shit ton of papers in academia today which talks about quantum money. And none of that is currently in production. It will take, 5, 6, 10 years for that to happen. So I don't believe that scaling is a done thing.
Also, I think some of you guys have been really around for a very long time. Like iExec did the ICO in 2017, as far as I remember.
Yeah, correct.
How you guys been? From your perspective, what has really changed in the past? Since 2017, really.
The thing that when we did the ICO back in 2017, the market has changed totally since that time. The context was different. Even the philosophy was different, and the way users are interacting with the application and the way builders build these applications for users changed totally. One of the simple things to, for example, use is that iExec, which is deep in an AI infrastructure trust layer, at that time of the ICO, Deepin even had a name, and AI didn't went exponential in Web3. So we needed to change around where the value we can provide to the ecosystem, and I think that is the mind that has changed in the markets, is the people are more concentrated on what is the value of this application, what is the fundamental of the value of the tech that is bringing to the market globally. And we see that change went from also the adoption of institutionals and the adoption of real-world use cases to the market. At the beginning of 2017, it was only promises and only new token and new hopes, basically. And then now we can see that people in the real world are using Web3 technologies for real-world application. And that's something that's really changed in the way we're also building the tech for users. One of the simple things, for example, is to see how many as well projects are more concentrated on really applications that are used on a day-to-day basis. For example, we see that applications are mainly built in DeFi projects, in RWA, something linked to real-world application. And that's something probably that's changed since that time.
I just want to add real quick. I like what you both said, but if we zoom out a little bit, my hot take is we haven't solved scaling because I don't think scaling is a problem. And I say it's not a problem because if we really zoom out, and my background is like, in a past life, I was a venture capitalist. So look, capital funds speculation and innovation. In the last cycle, we had over speculation and build out of tech and infrastructure that promised and ushering new worlds, and none of that happened. So the VCs are tightening their string purses, backing, occasionally one or two of these L2s, L3s. But what they're looking at for is adoption now. And what that means is, think about crypto as like settlers going to a new place to settle, right? I think that first batch is done. You have settlers coming in, you have a decent population, folks are building out banks, hospitals, healthcare, education, whatever. We don't need a drive to build out more highways to nowhere and a manifest destiny yet. We need to populate those centers more. We need to onboard net new capital, net new users, net new transactions into the ecosystem. And in order to do that, you actually need to target a whole new group of users, right? If we think about technology adoption in S-curves, the first wave has been captured by the guys who came in through the likes of Coinbase, P2P, trading type venues, right? The next middle, which is the bulk, 50, 60%, they're not gonna come on chain or touch crypto via the same paths we did last cycle. It has to look radically different for them to come. And after they come, then those applications beget infrastructure build-outs. And then we have more fire under our ass to solve scaling problems. So that's why I think scaling is not a problem today. It will be, but I think the bigger issue is how do we bring more users on chain.
If I add to something, I think one thing that has changed over the last year or so is the way we build apps, or the way we market these apps. And if you're building in the DeFi summer era back in the days, you would build an app and then you write, 20 dev docs pages to explain how the system works. And those days have gone. You could see that literally yesterday with Robinhood's announcement, there's no dev doc. You just go there and use it. And if you like it, you will use it. If you don't like it, you will not use it, right? And that has changed, which is, I think, is the right way to go, which is like you're building something and you're hoping, or you're trying to get that user base, not through explaining how this curve works and how it stabilizes things and whatnot, but actually providing value to end users, and that definitely is changing. And you could see that. People are not expecting, developers are not expecting users to read dev docs, and users are not reading white papers and dev docs anymore. And that is a good thing.
Is this the death of points farming?
One thing I wanted to add is that I think we should figure out what's really important. Not too much decentralization is required for almost every other thing. One of the biggest problem with entire crypto industry is that a lot of people are purists, right? So if you're a purist, then you're just talking about the tech and you're actually not building products which are actually people can use. Blockchain is an infrastructure that should support another product that's being launched. It's like how we would use AI into a consumer app. Blockchain is just another layer on that, right? So I think that has to be seen much more forward. It's not like building every stack of a product on chain. It's about where it actually has to go on chain and then concentrate on that. That will bring in scaling.
But actually, then the question is, so especially from product side, and our head of product always complains about this notion of, you build, we're going to build, and then just going to come. And I think, Matt, I wanted to actually pass this one to you because you work with developers a lot. So, and I think actually I would argue that there was something about their mentality, how they would hire for certain roles such as marketing and for product roles and what the priorities are. And that's the reason a lot of products arguably still not very usable because they never thought about the users specifically. So is that piece of the puzzle actually start moving in the right direction?
Yeah, it's starting to move in the right direction. And to your earlier question of what has changed, what everyone essentially just expressed is like two aspects. One, being focused on users or the product, but also that results in specialization, right? Is that each of these are taking specialized approaches, and we're here at L2Con, and people will talk about general purpose L2s. I think that those days are kind of going. But that also speaks to the part of the stack that you're necessarily building. What people or developers or really these businesses are competing on is users. And it's not that you're competing with crypto users, you're competing with any online application or really just any application as a whole. And you've had like a poverty of opportunities to build products. I'll give you maybe an example. Products that I would consider that have product market fit are roughly trading, lending, more trading with perps, and then potentially like polymarket, prediction markets. And if you look, it's a smart contract, it's a chain, it's a smart contract with an oracle that sometimes doesn't necessarily resolve correctly. And what we're essentially getting to is you have to build a product that is targeted to solve a problem, and you use the right tools for the right purpose. So essentially what we've created, the reason why we have to explain how all of this works is that we're working with like bare level like data centers, essentially like the blockchain level smart contracts, when not being able to be focused on the actual product. And essentially what that requires is you need to be able to build full stack applications. You can't just write them in a smart contract. You can't just write them like off chain. The benefits of crypto is that it is decentralized. What does that mean? It's that anyone can use your product. It means it's global and accessible wherever. And the second is that you have like strong guarantees that it works. Proof of stake essentially just means that your product can offer better guarantees to users. So we need to be able to build full stack applications and the specialization that everyone's touched on.
Agree on the full stack. Ironically, I would argue decentralization is bad because from a Web 2 builder's perspective, that means you lose users. You cannot track where they're going. You can't keep them. You can't retain them. There's nothing keeping them, right? Which is why we have to invent points and like all these other ways to scam people into staying. But you're absolutely correct on full stack applications, right? And a small shameless plug, we're launching this crypto neobank specifically for that. It's a bank where it looks like Revolut on the front end, users come in, and then everything settles on the Mantle network. If they want an earn product, cool, they can use Mantle products like Function BTC, METH. If they want a structured product, cool, we built one too, right? And we're building third parties to come in as well. So imagine it as like Apple with an app store. That's the vision, right? It's full stack, it's tangible, people can feel it, they understand it. And I think you're absolutely right. That's why we're going that direction.
Could I maybe answer that a little bit to explain? I think that also it's not an absolute, right? I think everything is on a spectrum. Like decentralization, the property that I was talking about is permissionlessness, right? Like if you have an internet connection, you have a way to interact with these products like beyond global boundaries. That's why stablecoins are very interesting, right? Is you have stores of values that can cross borders. The same thing with like Uniswaps or any of these like banking solutions is that you get global access. So decentralization has different properties, and again, it's like a product focus that you have to take.
Two sides of the same coin. We're at the stage where centralization is in vogue now until it blows up again, then we're back to decentralization.
Talking about this, I would give an example of something that I feel is very Web2 inspired, but it actually solves a problem. So if you look at like people have been talking about stable coins as payment, you know, can I bring my stable coin, go to a supermarket and be able to pay? That has not happened. Will probably take I don't know how many years for that to be accepted. But what has happened so far, or has been done successfully, is this crypto debit cards, right? So you can top up your card with, let's say, it's USDT, USDC from any chain, and then everything that happens after that. So, for example, the vendor, the supermarket, is not going to take a stable coin. They want fiat, and so what they do is they're basically hiding away everything that goes behind the scenes, so that you, as a crypto user, all you see is a stable coin. From the vendor that's going to receive, or the merchant that's going to receive money, he only sees fiat. And so this is an example of something where yes, it's not decentralized and whatnot, but it actually solves a problem because you and many of us actually have stable coins and would happily spend it if we can. But we know that we cannot send stable coin to a supermarket here; they will not accept it, and so or most of them will not accept it. And so I feel like there's some things that have been done in the last. I mean, crypto debit card is not a new thing, it has been there for a while. But I think over the last year or so, they have been adopted way more aggressively compared to what it was, I don't know, 2-3 years ago.
When you say send, do you mean like the super down the street is not accepting stable coins?
Yeah, like I don't know. If I take a pharmacy here, of course they're not going to accept stablecoin, right?
Yeah.
But if I take my crypto debit card, well, it feels like cash to them, and they get their cash in, and I'm able to spend my stablecoin. So it's win-win for both sides. Yes, it's not the ideal crypto decentralization whatnot, but it actually solves a problem, which is we all have stablecoin. You want to spend it, and still.
I think one thing I've seen is that it always works with P2P, right? The problem comes in when a business is involved. Like in OpenLedger, the reason why we could have been a centralized platform, right? We could be like Hugging Face and then do this. But Hugging Face cannot reward users for contributing the data because there's so much red tape that is there. And that's one of the reasons we actually built it as a blockchain-based stack, because we could reward anyone. If someone wants to build a model on us and they would want data sets based out of South Korea, and this guy is building in US, he could get data sets from someone who's South Korea and then pay them in crypto, right? And it's so easier to do that than actually using like physical fiat to actually go and pay that. So that's one of the reasons why we were able to scale much faster than in terms of language data sets and building models around that than Hugging Face. We are one of the largest ecosystem having larger access to various like niche languages because we could incentivize people to contribute those data sets. And I think if it works really well with P2P, it does not work well with where there is P and then there's the business in the middle and then there's another end user there. So if we can, obviously it's because of REST tables and stuff like that. I don't think that's a blockchain problem. It's more of a, the usual government problem that is there that's been going on for the last 10, 15 years.
But it's interesting actually with, something that you guys mentioned is, especially with the cards. What actually been solved there, because there were cards available, it just depends if you find easy jurisdiction enough to have one like 2 years ago. And what has been solved is actually regulation, I would argue, to have some of those use cases. But also what we do see right now is that the users have changing as well. So, and it means the requirements which we're building for are different because every time, and even it's funny when we have in interop, people still talk about a user. And I'm like, your user is actually B2B. And now we have institutions as well. So actually, as we finally see a lot of progress evolving with more tooling and kind of better interoperability and better regulation, now are we actually ready to work with properly with B2B and actually with institutional and cater to their needs at the same time from what we're building?
Do you want to take this?
Sure. If everyone's looking at me, I guess so. Like, yes and no, right? I think there still are some missing pieces, but largely we're getting the infrastructure that is able to do this. So you brought up like centralization, right? It also results, essentially you want some ability to be compliant, and we're starting to have like services that allow you essentially to do this. Maybe like take for example, like institutions aren't coming on. Like there's a recent like study, it's like security, volatility, there's regulatory risk, and then like privacy. And compliance is probably like top of mind. And if you can have middleware, like a predicate, right? Predicate essentially allows you to do like compliance or any arbitrary check. So for these institutions, they don't want North Koreans necessarily interacting and intermingling funds. Awesome, you should have the tools that you already have in like Web2 for fraud detection or other things that protect you. So I think we're starting to get that like built out and more ready. Like the stacks are getting specialized. You see ZK Sync launching Perfidiums that's very targeted at a particular like type of institutions. You also see other like chains taking different approaches where they want to be the best pace for like liquidity such that these chains can invest and like tokenize assets and interact with like users natively. So I think we're starting to get there, and it's probably a result of also this like product focus and of course the regulatory. But we have to be very targeted on what your solution is, and like selling to like which audience. Is it B2B? Is it B2C? Like pick one and do it really well and go from there.
I'll give an instance of a client, which was an institutional client that we wanted to work on board on the RAS side. So we wanted to launch a roll-up for this client. And one of the main requests that they had was they want to basically have a mechanism where they would decide. They have a whitelist of allowed users and only allowed or KYC participants, and only that KYC participants will be able to transact on this chain, so deploy contracts or send transactions. Now, initially, when we were talking to some of the stack providers, so the likes of OP, Arbiter, and so on, they didn't like this idea. One, because it felt very, it's not aligned with whatever crypto stands for. But then, so sure, fine. You put some sort of an RPC filtering mechanism. Some sort of filtering mechanism, RPC level, and you block people. And they didn't like it because they felt that you could still bypass. If you have some other RPC provider, you could bypass it. And so then they're asking, can I force? So because like in rollups, you have this force inclusion where basically even if sequencer does not approve your transaction, doesn't allow you, you can basically force your transaction from the L1. And so initially, again, all the rollup stack providers were not very keen with this idea. So no, it's the property, you have to keep it, blah, blah, blah. And in the end, they gave up. In the sense that, look, if a customer is asking for this, you give what they want. And now they actually, for example, Arbiter Mob is now building an actual system where it's all structured and written properly, where if you have the flexibility to decide what are the elements that you can control. So I do feel like I think we as crypto people are becoming a lot more flexible in terms of what people want and give them what they want, rather than, okay, here's what it is, and you take it or leave it.
Yeah, I think a good point on that is that users changed, but because also we understood who are the users, and we understood that it's not only just token buyers that will provide liquidity to an application or a protocol, but it wants to use this application for real-world again use cases. So then we understood, I think, that there are just crypto-native people that wants to use the application. There is also the retail that has other needs and wants to interact in a different way to this application. Institutional, we mentioned that already, but also agents and bots. They don't have any behavior, they don't have any things in mind. They just want to find a simple way to use this application and wants to access the docs in a very simple way without any losses of information. And I think in a way that we are building application, we need to understand which targets of the audience we need to fix, what are the real needs they have, what they have in mind, what they want to do with this application. Is this just getting access to this application for have a better service compared to other markets? Is it just for earning money or thanks to this application? This is something that is really changed in a way we're building application, I think. We're not just seeing user are a liquidity provider, but really customers. And I think in a way that people are managing the customer retention and loyalty, they need to think about, okay, these people are real needs, and they have real problem, and they want to solve this problem thanks to my application, and then I need to also give resources and budget to answer in a proper way their needs, even just pushing the token into different exchanges and have can extract value, basically.
Tim, as Mantle going full speed on the user experience and on also providing banking services, how you guys look at the diversity of the target audience?
So yeah, we are evolving from needs because our, won't name who, but you guys can figure it out, our affiliated, friendly, large secs out there asked us, hey, our users want a way to off-ramp. And so with our crypto neobanking product, it's called UR, the two letters. The difference is it's built very Web 2 with blockchain principles. And what I mean is we actually have a FINMA license, so we're based out of Switzerland, right? So you don't need to do these hacky ways of creating a DeFi mullet, dodge regulations, and be afraid of getting shut down of where your on-ramp is. The experience is you can KYC in 5 minutes, get a FINMA licensed Swiss offshore bank account, and a globally accepted MasterCard debit card. You could not only fund in stablecoins, you can put your salary direct deposit into it because it's an actual bank, because it's on top of one. And you can spend that into the local supermarkets. And that experience is seamless. However, you cannot if you're part of an OFAC sanctions country, I'm sorry, or if you're an American. So that's a bummer.
We don't have much time. So one of the things I definitely wanted to touch upon, so as we're scaling applications, I would argue we do exist in an environment which is not necessarily healthy because all of it is very much powered by the VC money. And I think for the many for the many years, we see, unfortunately, the tendencies is through the incentive model or even the necessity of having a business model for the applications that are built hasn't really been the case because those who fundraise very successfully just keep thinking of playing this race to the bottom game. So I think so the question is, do you actually see it's very important now to start thinking about actual monetization business models for those applications to be sustainable. Where are we at right now and what actually needs to change?
Yeah, I think something we need to have in mind to answer this question is how many real projects are generating revenues on chain. And the last statistics for that is only 170 projects are generating on-chain revenue more than 100K per month. So which is absolutely ridiculous in terms of how many projects are in the space.
And we have 1,300 chains.
Exactly, yeah. And we have roughly 20 millions of tokens in the market tracked by CoinMarketCap, so that's crazy. So then I think people are changing in the business model from token only to starting to generate revenues on-chain through the application because basically they need to pay people that are working at the company and just not only trying to survive thanks to the market cycles and token performances. So I think we are seeing much more a paper task and pay per usage business model and something linked to real what the resources are used into the application by the users and they pay for that. That's something that works very perfectly for infrastructure projects, something else. But also we can see that people want to pay only if there is a big market fit of the application. And they don't want to try to pay for promises later. Something last is before, even at the time of where iExec was founded back in 2017, the classic path was I'm going to do my TGE, and then I need to deliver the value, I need to deliver the business model, I need to deliver the product and everything. And now it's shifting from, now I start by thinking about my project, my business model, how can I make viable application, then I'm going to do partnership, scaling application, and lastly TGE. And this is something that shifts in mind in the way builders and founders are thinking about firstly about community and business model.
I think one I want to add is that is very true what you said, right? For a company to go IPO in a traditional space, it will take about probably 5-10 years, for it to have completely matured, have a certain revenue, and then you need to apply for it, regulators will approve you. But people can go IPO in crypto in about a year. Some go without even mainnet, right? So the problem with that is that you're not really, the bane and the boon with crypto is tokenization, right? People can just go ahead and launch token, have enough liquidity, and then never worry about building a product. If that was not the case, people would have worried about actually building a product that is useful, make revenue, be sustainable, and then launch something around that. So if things were a bit different, we would have seen a different industry. But fortunately, unfortunately, we are here. Now the retail has understood that. The end user has understood that there are so many protocols that come in. It's just all of them are like ghost chains. There's no actual use case. Why would I want to buy the token? Why would I want to put my liquidity there? So that realization is there in the market. Founders have realized that they can't just swing it. And now, so the people are actually building products that are useful. Hopefully, we've seen a couple of them. So it comes down to how the market is and what the founders think. If they want to build a product that is long-term, if they want to build something that is sustainable, they would do that. And that's how I think better products will come into the market as well, which actually make revenue and are useful also.
Yeah, so yes, we do need sustainable business models. I don't think that's a radical idea whatsoever, I hope. But we also do have superpowers with token incentives as well for networks that could not have between people that don't trust each other. That's roughly the whole thing that Bitcoin kicked off. But there are use cases that we're starting to see. What you've described is also just an existing Web 2 model. There's two examples. One, what you kind of described is roughly the freemium model, that chains are essentially subsidizing costs potentially for high value users, or if you want to get a better experience, you pay a little bit more. And we're seeing this at the transaction level for sequencers, right? So sequencers are, if you look at a chain as a whole, it's one revenue generating model, and we're essentially seeing freemium kind of get built out there. And there's other applications today that have like revenue, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be on chain. They can get the benefits of like crypto without having to be exposed. Like I'll give you an example, which is Earnify, which just won the best financial app on the App Store. It allows you to do payday loans and just get better rates. Under the hood, it's using like zk-TLS through Opacity, and they're earning revenue through the users that are using that on top. And I guess essentially this is coming back to the whole thing is that if you have a targeted solution, you're able to make a targeted product that people want, and you can charge for that. And then there are other things that tokens offer that also allow us to offer like this underlying infrastructure that like couldn't have worked before with these networks that are global and accessible wherever. So we do need sustainable businesses, and you kind of don't have to hand roll all the infrastructure yourself. To be able to do that and focus on your core business logic is hopefully where we just continue to trend.
I think tokens are not going anywhere. My view is that if you start shutting down tokens, I mean, yeah, you could put some ways or self-regulate in how and when you should launch a token, but like 99% of this industry relies on tokens, like from exchanges to market makers to founders to all sorts of people. So I don't think tokens are going anywhere. They will stay. Maybe they will be, like imagine if Binance or Coinbase lists 1 or 2 tokens a year, what's going to happen? Their revenue will also slow down, right? So I think it affects a lot of people, but yeah, we definitely have to be a little bit more responsible. But then you also have things like Pump.Fund, which is basically a token machine, right? And so I don't think tokens are going to go anywhere. You still have tokens. Maybe people will self-regulate a little bit more on, hey, this is not the right time. The days where you do ICOs in the name of it, they probably won't happen. But then again, you see ICOs or form of ICOs still happening today. There's a revival there. I mean, I'm not answering the question, maybe. I'm just saying that tokens will be there, still be there. This industry relies on them. Maybe there will be some other way to kind of self-regulate in certain ways.
I think the challenge to monetization as a pure Web3 company is precisely the fact that you have a thing called a token. Because in the traditional world, if you work through raising funds privately and you ultimately IPO, that's where you get your liquidity. You live and die by generating revenue so you don't blow up. In crypto, wait a second, I can get some KOLs, show it on Twitter, and then all of a sudden my token pumps 100x. Do I focus on the product or do I focus on shilling? Right? So you have an incentive alignment problem. And ultimately what that means is, at the end of the day, crypto, well, on-chain, what you're going to get is, people say in crypto the token is a product. Token is a product, but it's a vessel for one thing only, which is attention and volatility, right? Binance lists all these tokens, sure, but today it's in the flavor of Solana, tomorrow it's in the flavor of XYZ coin. All they're selling to you is volatility, and people just ride the waves of narratives and attention. So I think that's the biggest challenge, right? I almost feel like if we move to a world where people delay the token launch until they actually have a real product, it could get more interesting. But at the same time, to your point earlier, what are the top 3 companies, business models that make money in the space, right? It's like trading, one lending protocol in the service of trading.
And stable coins.
Yeah, but stable coins only because interest rates are where they are. So yeah, I think monetization is challenging with the inherent dynamics that we've created ourselves.
I think the fact that the biggest product in the market that has the biggest product market for stablecoin, it would not have gotten this market fit if there was no trading. Right? It was propped and supported by trading, which again brings back the whole point of tokens.
Agreed, and the same thing for like any like currency that you use on a daily basis, right? That's like underlying these. I don't think these. Also, what we're talking about is necessarily mutually exclusive either. It's a really tough thing that is a brand new primitive with like tokenomics as a whole. But revenue or like other like service-based models are a proven out model, and it's depending again on the product. You have to like mix and choose. You're gonna figure out what works. So yes, I think that these aren't going anywhere. It's actually like a superpower of crypto, being able to have like ownership of a network, actually contribute to it. And also like speculation also happens on the stock market. We've seen that once or twice, I would say, before as well. So they're not going away.
I think what I wanted to add is that it comes down to the people who actually launch and do these things. Like so how citizens are, right? Citizens are responsible on how the country is. Very similarly, we all like one single nation here. If we believe that we want to have a responsible crypto that goes along, then we will build better products. Sure, we will make revenue with tokens. It's okay. Nothing wrong with making revenue with tokens. Just that if you build a sustainable product, you see a long-term growth here, right? The ecosystem grows along with you. It's just the mindset that it comes down to people.
All right, we have actually time for the last question. Let's make it a little bit more of a blitz one. So, what myth about scaling Dapps needs to die this year? Let's start with you, Matt.
Like, scaling Dapps often implies that the Dapps are just like on-chain interfaces. Like, Dapps don't have to be that. It's like a product. You're competing for users. Like, build full-stack applications. That's essentially it.
We need to build things that don't need education. You just download the app and just use it.
I think two things. One misconception is more chain equal to more users. That's not true. And also see a customer rather than just token buyers.
The example I like to use is everyone is too busy building Shopify and all the services for it instead of building the actual store and the inventory and selling it to a customer.
I think developers should have mindset when they're building a product, like, can my grandma use it? So if they can answer that question, I think better dApps will be built.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much, guys. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And really enjoyed this panel. Thank you.